What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Talkin Football podcast. This is episode 50, the big 5-0. We've made it. Week 1 is here. We are ready to get rocking and rolling. We got a couple things we got to talk about today, and we're going to get right into the action. Let's play the intro, and let's get right into Talkin Football. Back for the third season covering the NFL. Hopefully, we're more consistent. Let's get right into it. New intro is back. Felt that it was more appropriate given that the typewriter kind of thing didn't really fit. We're going right in. Heavy rock music. Got the new intro. A little bit shorter too. So let's start out. College football was back. I know, well, it's been back for 2 weeks, but week 1 was this past weekend. I would tell you, we got a lot of matchups in this past weekend. Ohio State and Texas. That's a number 1 and a number 3. Texas being the number 1, OSU being the number 3. We had Notre Dame. We had the Irish going up against the Canes. Classic rivalry there. That was a 6-10 matchup there. Miami being a 10, ND being the 6. We also had LSU going up against Clemson. Tigers matchup. LSU being a 9, Clemson being a 4. And in every one of those games, the lower ranking won. Ohio State beat Texas 14-7, a defensive showdown in the horseshoe. Ohio State comes away with it 14-7. I would assume they would move up to number 1. Depends on what the AP poll thinks, though, because you might see Penn State still at that number 1 spot because I think they're a little bit better than Ohio State this year. I genuinely think that. I think Ohio State is not as good as Penn State because Penn State has so many guys coming back. Again, we'll see. So Ohio State coming away with a number 1 win against Texas in their hometown, at home, with Julian Sayin now under center, going up against Arch Manning, who didn't look great. Let's be real, did not look great. But for what it's worth, I think he played okay. Arch Manning did down the stretch. Definitely looked a little confused. And for his first real start on the road against Ohio State in that dominant defense and Matt Patricia. Patricia knows how to work his way around young quarterbacks. He did that there. Didn't send a lot of pressure, but they still got home, made Arch a little bit antsy. He had a little bit of happy feet. Decision-making was not great. So you can see that on that pick that Jermaine Matthews had in the 3rd, I believe. He just forced it in there. There's no reason to because that ball would not have fit. But I think Arch Manning will be fine. He just needs a couple of games to kind of get his feet going. LSU and Clemson, 17-10 was the final score there. LSU came away with the win after being down at halftime. I think the score was 10-3 at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. Brian Kelly, for the first time ever, is 1-0. That's crazy because LSU has been a top dog. Well, now they're really top dog because now they're a top 10 team. But Brian Kelly, who was at Notre Dame for however many years, comes to LSU. He has not won a Week 1 game. Now he finally gets the job done. He is now 1-0 for the first time ever with the Tigers. So what does this mean for them? What does this mean for Garrett Nussmeier? That's what I don't know. What does this mean for Clemson and Dabo Swinney? Because the thing is, everyone was like, Clemson. And I was like, not that really that good. I know they have Cade Klubnik. Their defense is really good. They had some good linebackers there. But I was like, are they really that good? I guess they are. But LSU might be a little bit better. Lee Corso said, I think that LSU is going to be the national champions this year, which is crazy. I did not expect that when I was watching College Game Day. I was like, really? That's interesting. But LSU comes away with the win. Maybe Corso knew something that we didn't. Next game, Miami going up against Notre Dame in Miami, where the Dolphins play. Carson Beck, his first game as a Cane, played pretty well. Not great. I think he played pretty well, though. You can see the poise, 100%. You can absolutely see the poise that he has. You saw that one catch by I totally am blanking on his name. That one-hander catch of the year in Week 1, maybe. I mean, there's going to be someone else, but man, that catch was insane. Probably should have been a pick, but really good job by the receiver there. Malachi Tony, I want to say his name. I think he's a freshman receiver for Miami. That kid, stud. I love Malachi Tony, and he's spelled the same way that Kadarius Toney is spelled. So I was like, I wonder if there's any relation. There is no relation there. Malachi Tony has no relation, which is a little interesting because they play very similarly. Kadarius and Malachi. But no relation there. Miami comes away with that win after a drilled kick with like 40-ish seconds left. Drilled. Nice kick there by Miami's kicker, who was like 4 for 12 coming into the game. Not anymore. Now he's hitting 45-yarders like they're nothing. He drilled that kick. Miami comes away with the win. Marcus Freeman and the Irish are 0-1. Other games that aren't as impactful, Penn State destroyed Nevada. Not very surprising there. And we know that Chapel Bill in his first game, Bill Belichick in his first game at UNC, Chapel Bill, no. That hill is not hard to climb. 48-14. He got clobbered in his first game against TCU. That was rough. That was a rough watch. And most points he's ever given up in his entire career, football career, which is crazy. 48 points, next closest to 47 when the Bills beat them 47-17. The Patriots did when the Bills beat the Patriots 47-17 in the wild card round a couple years ago. So that's crazy. First game in college football. In college football, it's high scoring. That's how the game works. It's very high scoring. And Bill Belichick got his teeth kicked in by the Horned Frogs. Let me tell you something. That's ugly. That's an ugly, ugly game. That's just not good. And I wonder how this is going to progress for the season, because when we saw Dion become a coach at Colorado, went 4-7 in his first year. So we can see the early struggles. It's a common theme. It's just a matter of, is this going to be a consistent thing with Bill where he's going to be losing to these teams? TCU's not even ranked. They might be, because they were on national television on a Monday, for what it's worth, came in and they destroyed UNC. They're not a powerhouse, but they're still a team that's worth noting. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that kind of lays out there. Other than that, I think all the other games pretty much went as expected. I think Georgia won their game. Oh, I forgot another one. Bama lost to Florida State. Let me tell you something. Alabama, they kind of stink. Kalen DeBoer, no idea what he's doing. He was really good at Washington. Now he can't win at Alabama. He just can't. He cannot win at Alabama. Florida State came out firing. Thomas Castellanos, man, that kid can really play football. He can play football. I can tell you that right now. He can absolutely play football. Couple things, though. What does this mean for Alabama? You're losing to an unranked team. Now, if I had to guess, I'd assume that Florida State's going to be ranked after this week, whenever the AP poll comes out. I would have a hard time thinking that they wouldn't be ranked, especially being number 18 in the country. And they beat them. Like, they didn't, like, they barely snuck away with, like, a whatever, when, like, Vanderbilt beat them and they were ranked 25th. No, it wasn't like that at all. They beat them, so they dominated in every stage of the game. So Alabama, I would assume they're going to go way down, probably like 13 or 14. Florida State, I think they'll sneak up 100%, especially the fact that Boise State got dominated in their first game. I would assume that Boise's out. I think Florida State should be in the top 25. They absolutely should be. Bama, number 18, not anymore, I would assume, whenever the AP poll comes out. If there's any other college football stuff, content you guys want me to follow, 100%, leave a comment. Whatever, anything you guys want me to cover, I absolutely will. Just let me know, because I usually don't do a lot of college football stuff. I mean, I know usually at some point during the year, I'll do some scouting. Maybe I'll say like, oh, this team won, this team didn't, whatever. If there's an upset, I'll talk about it. I know it was week 1. I wanted to cover it. If you guys want more, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Now, let's get into the real NFL action. Let's start with the NFL Top 100. The top 10 has just come in, and I'll read it off for you in case you guys didn't see it. From 10 to 1, Pat Surtain, Justin Jefferson, Myles Garrett, Derrick Henry, Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, Jamar Chase, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Saquon Barkley is your number 1 player voted on by the players. Let's talk about it. 2 running backs in the top 7. Saquon is number 1 and Derrick Henry is number 7. That's kind of crazy, seeing that like that. I think Derrick was in the top 10 or was very close to it again last year, and he was good with Baltimore. I'm not surprised. I do think that TJ Watt's better than than Derrick Henry for being real. I think you can argue. I mean, Fred Warner, I think, is better than him. Chris Jones is better. Dexter Lawrence is better. I'm just kind of looking at it here. I think Lane Johnson is better than Derrick Henry. I think that's not a wild thing to say. So there are definitely players that are better, but again, I'm not on the field, and you don't know how dominating or how dominant Derrick Henry can be. So that I'm not surprised about in terms of like players, but as a fan, seeing him at number 7 is a little surprising. You also have 4 quarterbacks in the top 6. Burrow at 6, Mahomes at 5, Allen at 3, and Lamar at 2. So Lamar voted on by the players as the best quarterback in the NFL, is what they think. Allen being right behind him. Mahomes staying in the top 10, and I think at this point it's more of a name thing because we have seen that he is not as good as he used to be. And again, it's a very high bar, so I'm not saying that he stinks, but I think it's more of a name thing because if you look at it, Mahomes, he's not the kind of player he was. And I don't know if it's the scheme that's a little more safe because they do win. That's not what I'm saying. I do think that's a little, give or take a little bit. Burrow is better than Mahomes. I'm sorry, he is. And I know it's only one ranking spot, so it's not like a drastic difference, but I do think that Burrow is better than Mahomes. I don't know if Mahomes is worthy of the top 10, especially after how he played last year. Again, it's a name thing. So I guess we'll kind of see how that works out. 2 defensive players in the top 10. Surtain at 10, Garrett at 8. A little surprised. I thought there'd be a little bit more. Again, like I mentioned before, TJ Watt, maybe Dexter Lawrence, Derek Stingley's in the top 20, Chris Jones. Those guys, I'm a little surprised they're not in the top 10 as well. Maybe over Henry or Mahomes or one of those kind of guys. I'm a little surprised about that. Thought there'd be more than just 2. But if you're going to choose 2, you chose 2 great players to pick 110%. There's no way you can debate how good these guys are. Surtain is the best corner in the league by a mile. There's no one nearly on his level. I think Stingley's next up, maybe Sauce, but Surtain way up here. I think Stingley's here. There's a pretty big gap between the 2. Myles Garrett, probably the best defensive end in the league. I wouldn't call him an edge rusher. I think TJ Watt and Micah Parsons are edge rushers. Myles Garrett's not an edge rusher. Garrett's the best defensive end in the league, so it's not surprising. And then Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are the 2 receivers there. 9 for JJ, 4 for JC. I think that checks out. Jefferson has been really consistent. Jamar Chase is so explosive, so that makes sense. I want to talk about number 1 for a second. And I'm not saying that he's not deserving of it, but I'm a little surprised. And again, I'm not. He had an unbelievably good season. He was super dominant last year. Don't get me wrong about that. I'm a little surprised. Saquon Barkley is the number 1 player in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. He was electric last year. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying usually they go with a quarterback. I thought it would be an Allen or a Lamar, one of those kind of guys. I didn't think Saquon would be number 1. Very deserving of it. I'm curious to see where he goes. Usually, number 1 player falls off a little bit after they do it. I know Aaron Donald, when he was number 1, he kind of stayed in like the top 3 or 4. I think when Tyreek was the number 1 for whatever reason a couple of years ago, he fell off to like 4 or 5. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. So these guys don't stay number 1 because the players change and people get hot, people get cold. But Saquon, number 1 in all the NFL, based on what the players think. Do I agree with that? I don't think so. I think that Allen and Lamar are better. Other than that, there's not many players that are better. Chase, probably. I think you could argue. Other than that, there's not many better than Saquon in the NFL. But I'm definitely a little surprised. And I wonder how this is going to affect how, the NFL, how like GMs are going to look at running backs. Because Saquon, in his free agent year, went to Philly and won a Super Bowl just like that. And I think that's such an interesting thing to think about. Because when you look at what he did. He didn't just have like 900 yards and like a couple touchdowns, whatever. He dominated. He came in through the air, on the ground. He single-handedly dominated. And even with or without a good offensive line, he's been unbelievable. He's injury prone. Okay, sure, whatever. He came out and he's been so good for this team. So that it's not really surprising that he's number 1 there. And I definitely think that the NFL, you might have to pay a little bit more respect to these running backs. And especially when you have a running back class that just came in, Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, question mark. I think I don't know what he's doing. He might stay actually in college for another year. I really have no idea what he's planning on doing. I think it's a little late for that. He hasn't signed his contract yet, if I'm not mistaken. But you have these running backs coming in, RJ Harvey. These guys are coming in, and they're playing premier. They're getting premier picks taken on them. 2 running backs in the first round, a couple in the second round. These are guys they're getting high top 3 rounds going, and I think that it really is going to impact the running back market. Saquon got a big pay raise. CMC is getting 16 a year, I want to say, from the Niners. Saquon is getting, I want to say he's getting 20. Is that right? Maybe the guys fact check me on that. I think he's getting around 20. Very deserving of it. Actually, might be getting more than that. I think he got like 2 for 44 or something like that. He was going to get 13 and a half from the Giants if he re-signed with them, or 14. Now he's getting 22. What does that say for this market? Guys like Kenny Walker, even though I'm not a big fan of him in fantasy, I think in the NFL he's a good running back. What is he going to get? Are the Seahawks going to pay top dollar for him? That's why I don't know. And I think that's interesting. Breece Hall, what is he going to get? Is he going to get top dollar or not? And Achan, what is he going to get? Gibbs, what are those guys going to get? Are they going to get paid 15, 16, 17? Or are they going to break the record and maybe go 25? And if they do that, then we have a totally new market. If Gibbs is getting 25, then if Henderson maybe goes off, I love Trayvon Henderson. If he goes off and plays like a Jahmyr Gibbs, is he going to get 30 or is he going to maybe get 20? How is that going to work out in the running back market? If I'm a football fan, I'm paying very close attention to that. Let's move on to the trade that broke the internet. Micah Parsons, Jerry Jones, what are you doing here, man? Micah Parsons goes to the Green Bay Packers in exchange for 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. And I did post a quick short about it. Basically, once the trade happened, I posted a quick upload. I wasn't able to really get my full thoughts out there on this trade because I only have a minute to do it based on the shorts. So let's talk about it. Micah Parsons, best defensive player that the Cowboys have had probably since Sean Lee. And that might be like a low bar. I'm not saying Sean Lee was great, but he genuinely might be. Now we're at a point where you have a player who you need to extend. You need to, because he's your franchise player, and you can't say anything else about that. Micah Parsons was the franchise player. Parsons on defense, along with Diggs and Bland. Then you also have, on the other side, you have Lamb and just traded for Pickens, Dak, offensive line pieces. You had a decent foundation. All of that's gone because Tank Lawrence went to Seattle in the offseason, so you have no edge rushers. Your edge rushers stink. They brought in Kenny Clark. So let's give some grades. Packers. It's an A. Only reason it's not an A+, 2 reasons why. 1, you didn't trade an edge rusher. That's my biggest complaint about this. You didn't trade an edge rusher. I'm not saying Rashawn Gary. I'm saying Lucas Van Ness. He hasn't really played a lot. He hasn't put up a lot of numbers. And Jerry Jones loves those kind of edge rushers. He does. We saw with Leighton Vander Esch. He likes those kind of guys, or linebackers rather. He likes those kind of guys who are they're gonna dominate you with force like Micah Parsons. They're gonna pretty much go by you with finesse. That's what Van Ness does. And I had him as a breakout candidate, and I don't think it's going to happen anymore because Parsons and Gary are going to take up all those snaps. So that's kind of where it becomes interesting. I feel like they should have traded Van Ness and maybe added another pick because you're already trading 2 firsts. There's no reason to not trade another one there. They also gave him a massive deal, $47 million a year, I believe, 47 or 48. Highest paid edge rusher ever, highest paid non-quarterback ever. He got the bag. 4 extra years on top of his 5th year option, which gives him 5 years in green and yellow. The NFC North will be terrorized. But to be fair, if you look at who they have, this division, they have offensive linemen. So it's not like, the only one team that's like, is the Bears. If you go team by team, you kind of look at you kind of look here. Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, Darrison O'Neal. The Bears, Joe Thuney, maybe if he wants to play outside. They drafted, oh my goodness, the kid from Tennessee they drafted in the top 10 a couple years ago. I'm totally blanking on his name right now. They drafted him a couple years ago when they traded back with the Eagles. So they have him, Braxton Jones, and Darnell Wright. That's what I was thinking of. I knew they had Braxton Jones. So they have decent offensive linemen. Not great offensive linemen, but they're good. They're good enough. Micah Parsons is probably still going to run circles, run Darnell Wright. Don't get me wrong. But the competition is a little bit more heavy because in Washington, before they got Leonard Tunsil, they didn't really have anyone that would guard Micah Parsons. In New York, if Andrew Thomas is hurt, and even when he was available, Parsons was running circles around him. Eagles, Lane Johnson, and Jordan Mailata, don't get me wrong, those are animals on the offensive line. But the competition's a little bit harder for Micah Parsons here. Granted, you have Rashawn Gary on your side, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference there. They're still going to have to do one-on-one. I just wish they didn't trade Kenny Clark. Let's talk about it for the Cowboys. It should be an F, but they got a decent trade back. I like Kenny Clark a lot. He's one of the better defensive tackles in the NFL. He's progressed a little bit since its prime, but he's still in it. I would say he's getting near the tail ends of it. And I think the biggest thing that I will say about this is you already have defensive tackles. And given how this defense is built, you got to let those guys develop. Mazi Smith, has he been terrible? Yes. Osi Odigizua, he's been good. He's been solid. You got to let those guys kind of give them a chance because you don't know what you have with Mazi Smith. Now he's a former first-round pick who's going to go away for nothing, and you might turn into something with another team, maybe like the Rams or whoever. I don't get that. That's a big thing I don't like about this. At some point, Jerry, you got to drop. You got to drop the GM thing and hire one because you are worth $10 billion and you are not paying your premier edge rusher. What, 47 a year? I mean, yes, it's a lot, sure. And I understand in terms of like, oh, if you were like Carolina and you're paying Dak 60 a year and you're paying CD 35, 30-ish or in that range, and you're paying him that much, you're paying Bland 20, what is it? What is he making? 18? No. Yeah, 18. He's making 18 because he had 4 for 92. You're paying Bland 18, and or 23. Sorry, I'm thinking of 5. He's making 23 a year, and you have these guys that are making a lot of money. And I can get that if you're Carolina or like New Orleans or a team like that, a little bit smaller. Well, New Orleans isn't a small market, but a little bit of a less known fan base if you're in Carolina. But you're in Dallas, you see every week this team could be 0-16, looking to play like a UFL team that comes into play. And the Cowboy fans will be at the door. The doors open. Everyone swarms in. So you're going to make the revenue back. It's not like you're wasting your money. You know what you have with Parsons. Why are you not giving it to him? And I don't get that. I don't know why. That's a big thing there. So getting Clark instead of Parsons, or getting Clark in place of Parsons, rather, a little interesting. Let's talk about it from the first-round pick standpoint. Your first-round picks are way more valuable in the in the NFL compared to other leagues. In the NBA, they mean nothing. You need 5 first-round picks to get a role player. You need 6 first-round picks to get like a decent player. You know, the NFL is where they are valued the most, in my opinion, because the NHL drafts and the MLB drafts are way longer, and you're getting in MLB and NHL, you're getting project players, guys who are going to be in the minors for, say, I don't know, MLB usually 3 to 4 years for a typical player, maybe 5 years. NHL, same thing. You draft them when they're 16, 17, 18, and they'll be playing for you in 4 or 5 years when they're done with college and done through the minors and all that stuff, or done playing overseas, wherever. In the NFL, you draft them, they're playing for you immediately. And I think that's a big thing. Green Bay is going to be contending for the next 2 years, these 2 first-round picks. They're going to be contending for 2 years. So the fact that you're getting these 2 first-round picks now makes no sense to me. It doesn't. And look, you're going to get 26 to 32 picks, okay? And 26 to 32, along with probably Dallas is going to have, like, I don't know, 8 to 12, that can get you higher. So if they wanted to get another quarterback, they could. And given that this draft class is heavy with quarterbacks, Sellers, Nussmeier, Arch, if he decides to declare, they have those kind of guys who are ready to come in and play quarterback if they don't want to go with Dak anymore. But at 26 to 32, you're not really going to get anything, and you're going to get those late round picks unless Jerry Jones wants to trade back and stockpile picks, which isn't something he usually does anyways. it doesn't make a lot of sense. So from a value standpoint, I don't quite get it. Why you'd want it? I think you should have gone another pick, a second round pick, maybe that would have made the deal a little bit better. So I would say A for the Packers, and for the Cowboys, probably like a D plus, because you at least got Kenny Clark out of it. I remember when the trade came through, it was Parsons for 2 first-round picks, and then Schefter and Rappaport both said there's going to be someone else in here. We don't know who yet, and it can end up being Kenny Clark. So that was a good player to nab. If they got Lucas Van Ness, it's like a D minus probably, but they got some value out of it. I just don't get why you wouldn't extend him. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Let's transition. Thursday Night Football is back. You can watch this on NBC at 8:20 specifically with our good friends. He's not friends with me. With Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. I said as if they're fans of the show. They're going to be commentating this game for NBC as the Eagles unveil their Super Bowl banner pennant, and they raise the trophy, release the rings, whatever they got to do. They will be doing that. They're bringing Dallas into town. Dallas has so much controversy around them. I just talked about that. How they just don't really they really don't know what you have. Schottenheimer in his very first year going up as a head coach, going up against Philly in Lincoln Financial underneath the bright lights. Let's do a quick injury report. Philly looks to be pretty healthy, except for Landon Dickerson. But it's not the original ankle injury that plagued him earlier in training camp. It's actually a back injury. So if he cannot go, I wouldn't be too concerned about it because I think it'd be better for him to get a little bit more rest considering you're on a short week here. Dickerson, I think, is questionable right now. I would expect him to play. I think he should be good to go. If I'm Kenny Clark, I would line up next to him, maybe try and take him out of the game. Not purposely trying to injure him, but you get what I'm saying. Dickerson is the one Philly player who's like, you don't really know. I believe everyone else on Philly's side is good to go. Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs said he's 75%, 80% chance he's going to play. He's going to play. I would assume maybe a game time decision, make sure he's fluid and all that stuff. If he is, I'd expect Diggs to go up. I would expect Diggs to go up against Smith and not Brown. I think Brown would overpower Diggs, especially in his first game back from surgery. So I'd expect Bland to go up on Brown, especially after that big extension. Tyler Guyton, we don't know what's going to happen with him. He has an ankle injury that's been lingering for the training camp. Right now, his status is up in the air. I expect a game time decision for him. Again, when I'm recording this, we have 2 days until Thursday Night Football. So I would keep an eye out for that for Tyler Guyton, because let me tell you something. If Guyton is out, that Philly front is going to feast on them like no one else. Carter will just dominate, simply put. Let's talk about keys to the game for both sides. Dallas, what do you need to do? Safe and sound football. Present a good version of yourselves, because we know you as a team that has no idea what they're doing. Present yourself as okay, well, look, this team can play along with the Eagles. So safe and sound football, what does that mean? Establish the run game early, because we know that Philly's front seven is insanely good. And behind them, you have two great safeties, if DeJean is going to play there, you have Blankenship. They got guys back there that are going to easily fill those gaps or fill the second layer if need be. Got to establish the run with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders if he's going to be playing. Start with them. You have two mediocre running backs. Flip them. And I would not start this game heavy on the pass. Establish the run. And if it doesn't work early, don't throw it away. Because this is a game that you're not going to win if Dak throws 50 pass attempts. It's not going to work. If Dak throws 50 times in this game, you're going to lose by 20. Don't put the game on Dak. No reason to. Just try and establish the run game. That's what I would do. Use CeeDee Lamb sporadically. You don't use him all the time. Don't target him all the time, because he's going to be going up against Quinion Mitchell, most likely, if I had to guess. You don't have Darius Slay, but Quinion Mitchell is locked down. Don't target him. George Pickens, I would try and get him involved as early as you can, because if Pickens doesn't get involved early, and we've seen this in Pittsburgh, he gets frustrated. And when he gets frustrated, he can be wide open on a deep ball and he'll drop it, because that's how he is, and because he's a diva. Get Pickens involved. What do I mean by that? If you guys watched Ohio State and Texas, what did Ohio State do with Jeremiah Smith? Jeremiah Smith was struggling early. He had drop problems early. He had 2 drops on the second drive of the game. How did they get him involved? Quick screens, 5 yards. Is it going to break the stadium open? No. But it's going to give them enough hope to maybe say, okay, well, Pickens, after one drive, he did a couple underneath throws. He already has 3 catches in this game for, say, like 22 yards. That's a pretty good start. We're only in the first quarter. Get Pickens involved early. I can also not stress enough. Jake Ferg, get him involved, man. This team cannot go just through CeeDee Lamb. Get Ferguson involved, get Tolbert involved, get Pickens involved, Javonte, Sanders, get those guys involved. Stay away from Lamb because Lamb is going to be going up against Quinion Mitchell, who is easily a top 10 corner in this game after 1 year in the NFL. 100%. Comment below. Is he a top 10 corner? I think he is. I don't think there's many better than him. Surtain, Stingley, Sauce, Snead, I think is better. McDuffie. After that, who? Tell me. Who's better? I don't think there's. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think. Byron Murphy, maybe. Witherspoon. See what I mean? There's not a lot of guys better than Mitchell in the NFL. Defensively for the Cowboys, you just got to contain them. And I know that's such a vague thing to do, but look, you just need to kind of contain Saquon, contain Brown, contain D Swizzle, as I like to call him. I know that sounds like a really stupid name, but Devonta Smith, I call him D Swizzle. Contain D Swizzle. You got to do that. Because, and I have a great example of this. 2019 wild card. Kirk Cousins' second year with the Vikings. They went up against the Saints. Saints were a very good team that year. This is the infamous Kyle Rudolph push-off. Was it a push-off? It wasn't. People who think that, I don't get why. Michael Thomas had his unbelievable year. Triple crown, I want to say. Broke the catch record. He just was unbelievable that year. That Vikings defense stunk. They were terrible. Nothing like the 2017 team. But they still had Xavier Rhodes. In that year, Rhodes were open. With all due respect, he was getting toasted left and right. But what they needed to do was they needed to contain Michael Thomas. They could afford for him to get 7 catches, but just don't have him go for 140 yards. Guess what? Michael Thomas went 7 catches for 70 yards, no touchdowns, and the Vikings won. That's what I mean here with Dallas. Keep Bland or keep Brown 7 for 70. Keep Swizzle 5 for 46. Can you do that? If you can, you should be pretty smooth sailing. Because you know the tush push is going to happen. You know that. You know Barkley's going to chew away 3-4 yards per carry. That's going to happen. If you can limit the air game, though, you are probably going to have a much better chance of winning or at least keeping it close. Because you know how good this offensive line is. This defensive line that the Cowboys have sucks. Limit them to the air because you're going to be forcing them to run. Saquon's going to get gassed, and A.J. Dillon is going to have to come in. He doesn't have a ton of – I mean, he has a good amount of experience under his belt. Hasn't played a lot, though, recently. So I would definitely look for that. Let's talk about the Eagles. Eagles got to pound the rock. Don't throw the ball. Diggs and Bland are one of the best corner duos in the National. Don't force it. Just let it come naturally. You know what I'm saying? Let Saquon dominate like he always does. But make sure you kind of ease the game into him. I wouldn't say give Saquon 30 carries. I would put A.J. Dillon in there. I would put, maybe you want to give some jet sweeps to Devonta Smith. I would do that because Saquon, in his career, he typically has first game jitters. Because we saw it. I think we saw it last year when Saquon got hurt for like a second. And then we saw it in his second year when he fumbled. After he didn't fumble for literally the entire rookie season. He's been super good with ball security. Didn't fumble once. And now we're at this point where he typically doesn't have a great first game. And I mean, like, he might get hurt for a second or he might fumble. Ease the game into him. Use the other guys. Dillon, maybe Devonta Smith. I would start there. Maybe design QB runs for Jalen Hurts. Get his legs moving a little bit. That's a great way to start if you're Philly. So I would say pound the rock with people that aren't Saquon Barkley. Defensively. Pressure. You got to get home. Got to get Jalen Carter moving. You got to get Jordan Davis, that big body up front. You got to get him going. You know what I'm saying? Get those guys going. Because if you don't, you might be in a slight pickle. You know, it's not hard for Jalen Carter to get going. He's got such an incredible motor. And behind him, you have guys like Zach Bond behind him. I'm just trying to think of their edge rushers. Nolan Smith is there. I love Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith is great. Azeez Ojulari, if he's going to be playing or not. They had Zach Bond behind him. So they have a good front seven. Got to get home. I would send a lot of pressure. Vic Fangio likes to send pressure. I would expect a lot of it from Philly. There's no reason not to, because Dallas is kind of in shambles right now. I would send a ton of pressure. Use Zach Bond. Use Jeremiah Trotter. Get those extra edge rushers out there, because we've seen it work. It works all the time. If you get extra edge rushers in there and just have Davis and Carter in the middle, it could work. Because let's just see, if I draw this up here, Davis and Carter in the middle. You put Ojulari on the right of Carter. Then you put Nolan Smith on the outside, because he's not a big body. Keep those four on the line. Then you have, let's say you have Bond behind him. Bond can fill that gap. Send 5, send 6, and I would do it a lot. I don't think Brian Flores a lot where you're blitzing like 60% of the plays. I'm thinking like 40%. Do it a decent amount. Get Dallas on their heels. Let's get a game pick in. First TFP game pick of the year. Give me Philly by 10 at like 31-21 in this game. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a great game to start his season as a reigning, defending, undisputed, Paul Heyman reference there, Super Bowl champion. Give me the Eagles 31-21 for the first TFP game pick of the year. Wonder if we're going to see any dogs too. Also, before we get into the next segment, Monday, be sure to look on my Instagram story at Talkin Football Pod. Do dog of the week voting. We did that for week 1 of the preseason. Week 2, didn't get it out in time. No, I did do dogs of the week. Those dogs are fan voted. Make sure you guys vote for who you want. And I know in the preseason I did rookies only. Not anymore. These are open to everybody. So those dogs, you guys vote for them. Top dog is voted on by me. I'll be posting that on Instagram, and I'll be discussing my picks, or my pick for top dog and the fan voted dogs on here as well in the weekly recap episode. So make sure you guys are looking out for that on Instagram at Talkin Football Pod. Same handle here on YouTube as it is on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following there. Subscribe while you're doing it. Just subscribe here. Take a second. Subscribe to this, because we're growing. We're getting there. Friday Night Football preview. Chiefs at the Chargers. This one, first ever game, free on YouTube. What you're watching this on right now, you can stay on YouTube, man. Just stay on YouTube what you're watching this on right now, and you can watch the Chargers play the Chiefs in Brazil. They're playing same stadium that they were last year, the Packers, where the Packers played the Eagles. And I'll be honest, the crowd was pretty good. And I still don't really get why we're going in Brazil. They want football more than football. So, whatever. I guess we'll see. Chiefs at Chargers. Let's talk about the injury report here. For the Chargers, Najee Harris likely to play. He's kind of been dealing with some leg injuries. He's likely to play. I would expect him to go. Quentin Johnston, he should be good to go. He suffered a concussion at some point during the offseason. He's cleared it all. He's still questionable right now, according to ESPN. I would still make sure. I still believe he should be good to go. Trey Harris is also questionable. I think he should play, though. Obviously, the only notable player that's going to be out for the Chargers is Rashawn Slater. He is out for the year. I discussed that in an earlier video. For the Chiefs, it looks like everyone should be good. I know Jalen Royals is not going to be playing, and obviously Rashee Rice will not be playing. Another question mark at the receiver spot for the Kansas City Chiefs is Hollywood Brown. We don't know what's going to happen there yet. Randy Reed looks like he's not totally sure. If Hollywood does not play, Juju Smith-Schuster, I would add him, maybe, and potentially add him as a fantasy option, as a flex. I don't know if that's something you necessarily want to do, but hey, TFP, free fantasy advice for you guys. I would say Hollywood I'm not sure if he's going to play. I would say it's like 65-35 right now. He should play. But if not, expect a lot of Juju Smith-Schuster, expect a lot of Travis Kelce, and a lot of the run game for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's talk about keys to the game here. Chiefs, let's just keep on rolling with them. Balanced offense, because the Chargers, that's what they do. Both teams are very balanced. Chiefs, you just lost Joe Tooney. Balance out your offense. And I would get Mahomes going early. You got to get Worthy moving, man, because Mahomes has not been great with the deep ball. He has not been able to hit it. And this secondary, for what it's worth, they're not great. They're good. They're not great. You're going to be able to hit those deep shots on them like they used to be able to. Outside of Derwin James, there's not much that's really going to be there. I still think that they're looking at something, and I mean, if you look here at their secondary, Dante Jackson, he's toast, respectfully. Cam Hart, Tarif still. I actually like Tarif still, and Cam Hart's pretty good too. And they have Benjamin St-Juste. I did not know that. Okay, well, the more you know. Obviously, their safeties are really good too. Gilman and Derwin James are great. But you got to get Mahomes going early. Get those deep balls moving in. And I wouldn't target Travis Kelce. For my own sanity, don't target Travis Kelce because I'm not trying to see every time he makes a 2-yard catch, he look at Taylor Swift. Yeah, you. Yeah, no thanks. I'm good with that. That was really annoying, and I hate it so much. But whatever. Get Mahomes going. Get like the Noah Grays and get the Xavier Worthies going. I would start with those deep shots, man. If they can work with that, Mahomes can get those 50-yard passes in early on, they should be pretty set. And obviously, those Kansas City, they chip. They chip at you. They'll get the 5 yards, the 8 yards, the 3 yards, the 5 yards, and they'll slowly move their way down the field. It's just how they work. Andy Reid's offense is so fluent. It can be Juju on a quick screen for 5 yards. Pacheco will run up the middle 4 yards. Quick, then you give it to Pacheco again. Quick run up the middle. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back with the Chiefs now. Give it to him 2 yards. Throw it to Kelce 5 yards. And now it's 3rd and 3. Now you get a 10-yard completion to Worthy, and they're just clicking. They click. That's what they do. Defensively, Karlaftis, get my guy going. I love George Karlaftis. Get him going. Because Rashawn Slater he's not playing. Get him going. Don't put Karlaftis against Joe Alt. Wherever Joe Alt is, put Karlaftis on the absolute other side. If Karlaftis can get going, the Chiefs should be pretty set. Now, I know the Chargers aren't great. They don't have a ton of options at wide receiver. I know they don't have Quentin Johnston drop issues there. Ladd McConkey. Outside of Ladd McConkey, they're not amazing. I do like Trey Harris a lot. Keenan Allen is super reliable. But outside of Ladd McConkey, they're not explosive. So I'd imagine McDuffie would be on McConkey, and then they got to kind of figure out what they're going to do outside of that. For the Chiefs, I would just target McConkey. Let Justin Herbert go to Harris to Keenan Allen. Let that stuff happen. I would let it happen. I would just keep an extra eye on Ladd McConkey because they don't really have a lot else there. I would just say Chiefs defensive target, Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie. McDuffie, make sure you're on McConkey because if he's not, might have a feast. I'll be honest, in Brazil. Other than that, the Chiefs, I think they have a pretty good game plan set up. Well, I mean, obviously I'm not in their room, but I would say absolutely deep shots early and often, and then make sure Karlaftis gets his motor running. Chargers, keys to the game. Offensively, get your young bucks going. There's 3 of them. Hampton, Harris, and McConkey. Get those 3 guys going, especially Harris and Hampton. Those rookies need to get their legs moving because there's nothing more obvious in the NFL when a rookie doesn't have confidence. If you're going up against the Chiefs, who have won the AFC for 3 years in a row and have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years and have won 3 Super Bowls under Mahomes overall, you need to get those young guys going. If Trey Harris, he's got a great personality. If you can get Harris going, man, the Chiefs might have a problem on their hands. I would set up Harris because he's really fast. I'd set up Harris in those maybe jet sweeps, end arounds, whatever you got to do with him. Quick screens to the outside. Set up those kind of plays. Get Alt in front of him. Get Pipkins in front of him. Get those guys in front of him to get Trey Harris going. Hampton, same thing. I wouldn't pound the rock with him because this defense is too good to pound the rock against. If you're going to pound the rock, rock pounding, that sounds a little wrong. Any running the ball heavily, he's going to be through with Najee Harris. He's going to find those gaps. He's going to pound for 3 or 4 yards there. Against Leo Chenal and against Chris Jones and Karlaftis, like I just mentioned, and That's what it's in against the Spags defense. It's not easy to run against them. So I would say Hampton. Same thing as Harris. Screens, quick, drag routes underneath. Do that kind of stuff. Hooks, maybe if you're running like a vertical scheme, maybe just like in Madden, run a curl. Have an easy option for Herbert. Get those guys going. McConkey goes without saying. McConkey's so elusive, man. I wouldn't say target him deep. I would say, again, like those in routes, those 15-yard in routes, I would expect a lot of them here with McConkey. I think that's his strength. When you get him going across the field horizontally, I think that's when he's at his best, because once he gets it, he can turn the jets on, and he can probably get past a good chunk of the secondary and get some extra yards for the Chargers. Defensively, it is all about making Mahomes as uncomfortable as possible. How do you do that? One, take away Kelsey. Now, easier said than done. That's a very, for what it's worth, it's easier said than done. And considering this linebacker core, Dayan Henley, he's all right, I guess. Denzel Perryman is solid. Outside of that, they don't really have a lot of guys that could cover him. Oh, Derwin James will be on Travis Kelce. Maybe have an extra body on him. If you're running zone, maybe have someone come in and maybe have Derwin James on a man coverage and have a linebacker maybe just covering or just shadowing Kelce. Because if you take Kelce away, you see every time Mahomes like, oh, my name is that. He looks over and he always looks like Kelce. You see it all the time. So if I'm looking at Mahomes, take away Travis Kelce. Other than that, pressure. Tuli, I always mess up his name. I have to look at how he spells it, because I'm used to JT Tuimoloau from the Buckeyes. Tuli Pulotu. Call him TT. TT, get him going. Get Tuli going from USC. Get Khalil Mack going. If they can get those guys kind of operating a little bit, maybe get Mahomes to scramble outside of the pocket a little bit, that's what I would do. So for the Chargers, get McConkey, Hampton, and Harris going early definitely, and then get Mahomes uncomfortable. Force him to throw to someone that's not Kelce, because he trusts Kelce. He doesn't really trust anyone else, because I think he still has some PTSD from Kadarius Toney. I think he still does a little bit. But again, I guess we'll see on Friday. Game pick. Give me the Chiefs. I think I like them 27-26 in this game by 1 point. There's going to be some BS. Herbert's going to throw downfield for McConkey. PI on McDuffie. They're not going to call it. That's what I'm projecting there. So 31-21 Thursday Night Football with the Eagles on top. 27-26 KC on Friday on YouTube in Brazil. Again, Thursday night is on NBC as well. Thank you all for watching. I know this is a little bit of a longer video, more of a podcast though. So I do want to get these longer videos out. Be on the lookout for posts on Instagram and on YouTube. Thank you all for watching. This is Talkin Football, and that's what I got to say about that.